All right, so title of today's notes, energy and ATP. Energy and ATP. We'll talk about what ATP stands for if you don't already know. This is going to be 2A and G. 2A and 2G. And I'll give you your learning targets. They're up here. I'll give you those in just a little bit. You can set it up kind of like this. We'll have a little bit of extra room at the bottom, but you can set it up at the top. We'll do a little drawing diagram at the top. We'll talk about one of those, and we'll talk about the other one over here. Let's start off with the sun. That's where almost all of our energy on Earth comes from, whether that's wind energy or obviously solar or hydroelectric, all powered by the sun. And we're going to draw this sun energy going into a bowl. Now tell me what this bowl is. A little bit of green. A little bit of red. What do y'all think this bowl is? It's getting energy from the sun. These things came from the sun, so they're plants. What do you think it is? This is a salad. And I'm just going to write that it's a glucose salad. This is a glucose salad. Glucose is a type of sugar. You can tell that because it has an OXE. We'll talk about that again. We've already mentioned that earlier in the year in Unit 0. We'll talk about it again. So energy goes from the sun into these plants, which we would eat as a salad, and then it goes into this thing that we're going to talk about today. This is probably new information to you. All right, it's going to be a weird structure. We'll talk about it in just a little bit. It's going to be a little rectangle. And then kind of bottom right of that, you're going to draw a pentagon, kind of like a little house. And then 3 little circles. And you're going to connect them all. This, I'm guessing you guys do not know this. Anybody know what this is? Candy, if you can tell me. Don't know what this is, the structure? But you should, after today, you should know this easy. This is ATP. Ooh, can y'all see that? ATP, can you see that? I'm gonna rewrite over it. I don't like how light that is. ATP. Got that? This is, let's rewrite this a different, we're going to redraw the same thing. It's going to be, or rewrite, it's going to be light energy. Turning into, this is a type of chemical energy, because the energy is stored in these bonds. This is a type of chemical energy. Which turns into a type of cellular energy. So we've got light energy coming from the sun that gets put into the plant. We'll talk about what that process is here in a sec. That's chemical energy, and that chemical energy is turned into cellular energy. Black. This is, I'm sorry, I'm changing this up on you. This process of turning light energy into chemical energy, do y'all know what that is? We've talked about this, you did this in 7th grade. Turning light into chemical energy, in this case sugar. light into sugar. The process is called photosynthesis.
Oh, that's what we're not heard in a while.
Yep, it's been a bit. Photosynthesis in what organelle? Y'all remember what organelle photosynthesis takes place? What organelle does sunlight get turned into sugar? What organelle?
Energy body?
What's that? No. It's one that's going to deal with energy. That's going to be over here. Over here, before it gets there, the one that's only in, or it's not in animal cells. Typically, think of them being in plant cells. It's the chloroplast. All right, so that process is called photosynthesis, and it happens in the chloroplast. You're turning. Give me a second. When you turn chemical energy like sugar into ATP, which is cellular energy, sugar into ATP is called cellular respiration. And it happens in where? What organelle? What organelle does this take place in? The mitochondria. That takes place in the mitochondria. So sunlight into sugar, sugar into ATP. Your cells run off of ATP. They don't run off of sugar. They don't run off of sunlight. They run off of ATP. So if you want to use that sugar that we put into our body, like in a salad or a sandwich or something, if we want to use that, then we have to turn it into ATP. And the way that we do that is one organelle in the cell called the mitochondria. So what we're about to do here, we're going to talk about this middle section. We're not here to talk a whole lot about the sun, but this section right here, the glucose salad, photosynthesis, things that go on in the chloroplast, we're going to talk about that right here. And then this area we're going to talk about right here. Let's go ahead and do that. Over here, this is going to be labeled chemical energy. And this one over here is going to be labeled what? This one is chemical energy. What's this one going to be?
Cellular.
Yeah, cellular. It's a funny looking E, sorry. Cellular energy. All right, there are two. Don't write this next part down yet. There are 4 types of macros. 4 types of macromolecules. What are they? 2 of them give off energy, which we're going to talk about here. But what are the 4 macromolecules? One of the first things we talked about this year. Macros. Where do you get your energy from?
The sun, food.
You can, yeah. There's 2 of these that you get energy from. If you're running on a race.
Proteins.
What's that?
Protein.
Proteins, okay. We can go with proteins. Let's go with proteins. So proteins are what our cells, they're made of. We spent the last unit spending a lot of time on proteins. That's one of them. This next one is the Na of DNA. Remember what Na stands for?
Nucleic acid.
Nucleic acid, yep. Spelled that wrong. Nucleic acid. And then these 2 are going to be those energy ones. You got short-term energy and long-term energy. Remember we stuck our finger in the Crisco? No. We stuck our finger in the you stuck your finger in the Crisco and put it in cold water and hot water. That one was an example of a lipid. And then the other one was a short-term energy. You could eat this with sugar. It would be a type of sugar, like glucose would be one. It's going to be a carb. But you remember that? And there again, you're not having to write this down. You don't have to write this down. I'm about to erase it. These are the 4 macros. We're about to write about these 2 because these 2 are the ones that deal with energy, short-term and long-term energy. And I'm going to write one kind of thin, and with a thin marker because we're not going to focus on it much right now. I just want to, kind of remind you. It's a lipid. Lipids are things like fats and oils. Y'all see that? Lipid. Because our fats and oils, and again, I'm writing that real thin because we're not gonna spend a whole lot of time on it right now. We're gonna be focusing on this other one. Okay, we just said it. What was the other type of energy macromolecule? Short-term energy, real fast. Huh? Carb. I'm gonna write the whole thing out. Carbohydrate. All right, now we can abbreviate that. This is, you can think of this, when you see carbohydrate, you can think sugars. These are types of sugars. I'm going to put a note here. If it ends with OSE, what is it? If it ends with an OSE, it's a sugar. It is a carb. It is a carb or sugar. The sugars are carbs. So if it ends with an OSE, so that would be glucose, sucrose, lactose. I can't think of any others, but any of them that end in OSE, there's a bunch of them that end in OSE, and some of them you would be familiar with. We're going to talk about glucose. Let's go ahead and do this. Glucose. Talk about this up here because we're talking about chemical energy. Glucose. This is a, I'm going to change the colors here. Actually, I'm going to write this whole thing in different colors. Sorry if that messes y'all up. I'm about to color code some stuff, so it needs to be right. Glucose. Glucose is what we call a monosaccharide. S-A-C-C-H ride. Y'all know what mono means. What does the prefix mono mean? Sir? Yeah, one. Yeah, so I'm going to do one. That means one. Monosaccharide. This gives us super quick energy. Because it's so simple, there's not a ton of bonds, and it's a sugar. It's going to give us a lot of energy. I'm sorry, it's going to give us quick energy. And because of room sake, I'm going to kind of draw this up here a little bit, but that's why I wanted to be in gold and green. So glucose, monosaccharides, quick energy. I'm going to draw 6 sides. So it's going to look kind of like a house, but instead of going flat at the bottom, I'm going to do another angle. 6 sides. That's it. That's glucose. Glucose. All right, let's change the colors. This one is going to be cellulose. What does OSE tell you about it?
Sugar.
Yeah, it's a sugar, some type of sugar. It's going to be cellulose. Cellulose. This is going to be a polysaccharide. Now, what does that tell you? Poly. Do y'all know what poly means?
4.
That's a good guess. It is, 4 would be included here. Ooh, that's a horrible one. I'm trying to get over that L. This means many, so it's going to be 3 or more. So if there's 3 or more sugars, it's going to be a polysaccharide. It's going to be a polysaccharide. I'm going to skip some space because we're going to write about it here. Well, let me go ahead and write about it. We'll go ahead and write about it. So a polysaccharide, we'll draw it in a second. Polysaccharide is going to be the structure of the cell wall. So remember the phospholipid bilayer. It's going to be, we're going to think of that as it's got the word lipid in there. That's one type of energy. But the cell wall that goes around cells like plants, that is going to be made of cellulose. I think of celery. When I hear the cellulose in this sense, I think of celery. Celery's got a nice crap to it. You can pop celery. It's very strong. It's got what I would, when I think of as strong cell walls. That's cellulose, and it's a sugar. All right, so let's go ahead and draw it. This is going to be that same thing, but just 3 or more of them. We'll draw maybe 6 or 8 of them. Again, the house, and then a diamond bottom. Ooh, and mine's already started to be slanted. Ooh, this is getting worse and worse. Sorry, guys. I'll do the last one on that. You will not be graded on how well you can draw them. They do need to have 6 sides. If you drew them with 4 sides, it's not, you're not going to have points taken off. It's just, it's not as accurate. So we've got 6 sides. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yep, that counts as a polysaccharide because there's 7 of them, and 7 is more than 3. Okay, and then there's this one odd one I do want to show you, just so that you're familiar with it. I'm going to do it in this lighter blue color because it's not as important. This is called a disaccharide. Guess how many there are? The prefix di, guess how many there are? 2. Yep. Also, you can do process elimination. Mono is 1, poly is 3 or more. The only one left is, I guess, a 0 or 2. And 0 doesn't make sense. That is a disaccharide. All right. So, recap. The sun. A chloroplast turns sunlight into sugar in the form of glucose. There can be other types of sugars too, like cellulose. And that's this right here. This vocabulary, these drawings go with chemical energy. That's chemical energy. Now we're going to talk about cellular energy. If I had to say, as far as today is concerned, this would be the most complex part, probably the newest part to you. Let's talk about cellular energy. All right. First off, what does the cellular energy we're talking about here? We're talking about ATP. What does ATP even mean? ATP. Well, you do not have to be able to like in conversation. You're not going to have to remember these words, but you do need to understand the last part because it's going to help you with something. And if they write this whole thing out, you need to know ATP. So let's write out adenosine. Triphosphate. Adenosine triphosphate. Just being honest with you, sometimes I call that adenine triphosphate because of something that we'll talk about with DNA. Feel free to correct me if I ever say that, but it is adenosine triphosphate. This happens where? What organelle is chemical energy being made in this sense, from sunlight to chemical energy? What organelle is this happening in?
Chloroplast.
It's the chloroplast. Where is ATP being made or recharged? Where is that happening at?
Mitochondria.
The mitochondria, yes. This is made in the mitochondria. Made in the mitochondria. Let's go ahead and draw this. We're going to draw a little cycling thing, and we're about done. We're going to fill in this area with a little cycle, and we will be done. I want to go back to the color that I used up top. I think this was it. Yeah. Again, I'm going to draw a little rectangle. And there's actually some more complexity here. It's not actually a rectangle, it's 2 other things, but rectangle is the easiest to draw for now, and you don't have to know the other. Draw a little pentagon, and then draw 3 little circles. Alright, y'all are smart. Y'all know, excuse me, y'all know what, you see this word up here, where's that? Triphosphate. What does the word tri mean? That prefix tri mean? Three. Like a tricycle is going to be three wheels. Guess which one of these is the triphosphate?
The two circles?
Yeah, the three circles. That's it right there. So this is the three circles. That is the triphosphate. And we're about to turn this into ADP. Guess what the D is? Guess what D stands for? If we were to get rid of one of these, I don't know what D stands for, like the prefix for two is? Di. Okay, we'll get there. It's going to be turned into ADP in just a second. That's going to be adenosine diphosphate. Right. Alright, so we're going to do a little arrow here. It releases the phosphate. Let me erase that so y'all can see it. I'm sorry. Which releases energy. It releases that phosphate to release energy. Remember, go back to your physical science days. When atoms or there's a bond between something chemically, there's a chemical bond, the breaking of that bond, in this case especially, releases a good bit of energy. So this breaking this bond right here, so there's two instead of three, breaking that bond releases a lot of energy. And then we're left with ADP. Go ahead and draw it in that same color. Can you open that door, please? Okay, I'm going to draw the same thing. What's going to be different this time? What am I going to draw here as far as circles?
Two big circles.
Two little circles, that's it. And the last one, it's broken off somewhere, and it's being used that, we won't draw that, let's just do that. There's two little circles. This is purple. This is
ADP.
ADP. This is ATP. Adenine diphosphate now. So let's go ahead and label this little section. This is a diphosphate. You want to label this one too? This is a triphosphate. Again, you're not going to, I'm not on a test, I'm not going to say, hey, tell me what ATP stands for. But if you see adenosine triphosphate, if you see that, then you need to be able to tell me, oh yeah, that's ATP, and what that has to do with it. That has a cellular energy, and it's made or recharged in the mitochondria. All right, let's do one more. We're going to bring it back. Oh, I didn't draw something. I missed something right here. I'm going to draw two little things right here. Little tiny little battery. And another little tiny little battery. If you're going to draw a battery, which one of these is going to be charged and which one of these is going to be full? This is ATP. See, I think for now, just kind of listen so you understand this is a harder concept and you can take notes in a second. This is ATP. This is ADP. Remember, ATP, it gets turned into ADP because this bond breaks and it releases energy. So is this full of energy or is this full of energy? What do y'all think? Top or bottom?
ATP.
ATP is forming, good. ATP. ATP is full of energy. ADP is low. You see, the battery is all charged up here for ATP. It's got this 3 phosphates. When it gets to 2 phosphates, it's low. So this step right here, when we draw it up here, this is going to be the recharging. Recharged. It's not how you spell Peru, so we're going to abbreviate. This is recharged through cell respiration. And then it starts the cycle over again. Okay. Where does this happen? Where does this recharging happen? The whole process we're talking about is organelle.
From ATP back up to.
Yeah, so where does, I'm sorry, what organelle does this happen in? I'm sorry. Where does ADP get turned back into ATP? What organelle? Which organelle? Where does this happen at? Where is ATP being made?
Made into
Mitochondria. That is made in the mitochondria. If you have a car and you get a flat tire, do you just typically take that car, take it to the junkyard, and then go buy a new car? No. And so what's happening here is this ADP, instead of making a completely new structure, all these structures, ADP gets turned back into ATP. All it has to do, I say all it has to do, but all it has to do is a phosphate has to be put back on there, and now it's ATP, and it can be recharged. It's when your phone dies, you do the same thing. You don't just go get a new phone every time your phone's battery dies. One, that would be wasteful and super inefficient. Two, that would create a lot of waste. And it's the same reason the cell does the same. It does the same thing. The cell doesn't just get rid of all these ADPs. It gets recycled. Phosphate gets pumped back on there, and now it's ATP. I think that's it. And these are from 2A and G. That's it.
Nothing.